And Audacity in three, two, one.
Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Barbell Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Christina Lynn, and I'm here with my co host, Marissa Roy. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about how to build a home gym.
Yeah. So you've been at this game for a long time. uh long time. But we only recently jumped onto that bandwagon this year. And we immediately wondered why it took us so long afterwards. It was like the same thing with the walking pad. It was like as soon as I got it, I was like, holy crap, why haven't I done this sooner? Home gym, same thing. It's like, wow, I can save 15, 20 minutes on my drive to and from the gym and just start. So we figured it'd probably be a good idea to kind of just do a breakdown of like essential, probably pieces of equipment, things to consider, and just anything and everything under that category to support anybody who wants to treat themselves this holiday season to home gym stuff.
Yeah, so funny story. So we moved into our new house in 2019, and we had like the squat was like one of the first things that was delivered to our house. And it was the first thing to be installed, and we had, I think, like two rooms in our house that were completely unfurnished for like a year. So like,
Sounds
I
about
just
right.
think it's funny. Yeah, like the priorities of like, do we need furniture? No, we need a squat rack. So with
Absolutely.
it being said though, like, I mean, because my husband hasn't gone to a commercial gym since probably 2018, and it was really beneficial though because of COVID. I mean, and that shut
Mm,
everything down. So we had the home gym at the time, which was great. But yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so well, I guess technically we kind of like during COVID had some semblance of a home gym. Like we had that garage, if you remember, like my friend's garage, and we hauled equipment from that we got to borrow actually
Oh
from a
yeah,
local
from where?
gym. Body Mass.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so we got to steal their equipment for a little while, load up the tiny garage, and we had like four people training out of it at once. But that was cool and useful. But we did not have our own because we were in an apartment at the time. But we have been in our house for just over a year and a half now, and we decided to build it out. Actually, if not for certain events, we probably wouldn't have even done it by now. But I'm glad we did. So our CrossFit gym did like a full remodel where they stripped everything out, every bike, every barbell, every floor mat, like everything, and replaced 100% of it. And basically just sold off all the equipment at like stupid cheap prices.
Mm.
So that's when we bought our barbell, our bench, our rack, our floor mats. And actually, we got a good bit of it for free because Aaron decided to just like help out with some of the like moving the equipment. And they were like, oh, you didn't have to do that. Should we pay you? Or you could just take some of this stuff home. And he was like, cool, I'll take some of the stuff home. So we did get quite a steal on that. So pro tip, volunteer your labor at gym remodels if you can. um, Kidding. You probably shouldn't take that advice. But yeah, so basically it was kind of happenstance. And then from that point, we had floor mats and a rack and a bench and a barbell. And then we were like, let's fill in the gaps. So then we got adjustable dumbbells, we had bands, we had a jump box for whatever reason. We've just had it forever. Um, and some like landmine attachments, and that's pretty much it. So I mean, maybe we should go into just like the essentials of a home gym and kind of like what are the bare minimum things that you should invest in to start, and like then where can you build out from there.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to start off because if you're anything like me and Marissa, I don't want to say that we're frugal, but sometimes we just have difficulty spending money.
Yeah,
And
well, frugal but
especially,
not cheap.
yeah. And like, I think the other part is it's just like spending large amounts at one time is
Yeah.
hard for me. Like I can buy little things here and there and you're like, whatever, $20. But just to kind of put some context, so like, let's say your gym membership is $50 a month. And for a year, that's $600. And so if you think about like, okay, well, if I take 2 years out of the gym, that's $1,200. 4 years, that's $3,600. So if you try to think about it in that sense, kind of like, okay, well, if we have a home gym, we're saving thousands of dollars. And so, yes, it might be a large amount up front, but you can get quite a bit of equipment for, $3,600 for 4 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, more than 4 years, like a lot of that stuff just lasts for life. Like,
Yeah.
and they have warranties on it because it's like it's equipment that's supposed to last. Like typically if you buy from places like Rogue or um I don't know what the other brands are, but like brands like Rogue have warranties that are meant to last for a very, very long time. And honestly, it shouldn't ever break. It should go with you from house to house, anywhere you are. So think about if you want to be healthy and fit for the rest of your life and you have multiple decades left in your life and it actually gets you out of the gym, then like, yeah, you're saving tens of thousands of dollars on that once you do take the plunge. So that's a
Yeah.
great
And
reframe as well.
especially too, like if you think about it, if you and Aaron were both going to the gym and you're like, that's double that amount. So, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
lot to save. And so, especially too for me, I'm like, well, my home gym doesn't have cables and I love going and getting cables. So I'm also like speaking to myself because I'm like, I should probably update our gym equipment.
Yeah, definitely. You can get so much now. They have like all the little cable attachments for like racks and yeah, just basically getting it so you're actually not missing anything.
Yeah, so unfortunately, the model rack that we have doesn't have a cable attachment, which is so annoying. And I'm like, I don't know
Mm,
how to do another rig, but they do have the ones where you can like, instead of like the actual, because that's the other thing too, for cables, they have the actual weight stacks versus like it's
yeah,
like a hook for the weight. So you don't have to buy additional weights, but it is a little bit more tedious to kind of set up. So
yeah,
I think we could do that attachment, but anyways.
yeah, definitely. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff that kind of like goes into like the squat racks now or like the cable attachments you can get. So no, that's cool that you'll be updating that. So yeah, keep that in mind. Your own advice. But yeah, so basically, honestly, I think, and what I've told people in the past, especially when COVID hit, that was when this conversation really kicked off, I think, for a lot of people. But I was 100% just like, if you have a set of quality adjustable dumbbells, there is very little that you can't do. There are certain aspects that are limited, yes, but can you hit your whole body without any issues? 110%. So if you're just looking for like one thing, I would say definitely just dumbbells. And then maybe the step after that is an adjustable bench so that you can effectively use those dumbbells for things like a bench press or seal rows or those sorts of things. But I mean, that alone is like you can get very, very far with just those things.
Yeah. And especially if like even in an apartment, like adjustable
Yeah.
dumbbells, it's like you can get a shit ton of weight in just this little tiny like area. So it's not like, because that was the thing with us is we have like most people, right? We have storage in our garage. We've got tools, we got this, we got that. And then fitting in a home gym, it's like that's a lot of like space that we're using. So while I would prefer a nice dumbbell rack like at the gym, we just don't have the space for that. So we do have the adjustable dumbbells and I like wasn't really a fan of them in the beginning just because I'm not used to them, but I'm like, oh man, this saves so much space. And I think they go from five, at least the ones that we have the, I think Bowflex ones or whatever. We just bought
Hmm.
ours off of
Really
Amazon.
common.
Goes to 5 to 55 pounds. Like that's a huge jump.
Yeah. Yeah. We invested in some pretty nice ones. They're called Nuobells. So they look much more like regular dumbbells. Like they have still the round, like dumbbell shaped like weights on the side. And the handles are really nice. And it came with a little stand. But ours go up from 5 to 80 each,
Oh,
which is
wow.
pretty wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like, I think it was $600 secondhand off of like Facebook Marketplace, but I mean, totally worth it. And they're really, really good quality. So, yeah, I mean, it's just looking at these things in particular as an investment in like years and years and years of use. Obviously, if you're careful with it, and hopefully you're careful with it and not just like dropping shit all over the floor. But yeah, so that's where you could definitely start with just those. From there, I mean, that's when you get into like the barbell conversation. And even though we don't have one right now, simply because we got ours basically for free, I do think it's a better idea to go with like the full square rack that has like pull-up bar, like it's like the full cube in a sense, versus just like a stand. Like what we have is technically like a squat stand. Um, for safety purposes, but also for utility purposes, because there's so many things you can do off of like the attachments and the rigs on a rack like that, and it's so much more stable that you can get a lot more done, I think. Would you say?
Yeah, and I think the other aspect that we like, and we've only done it one time, but ours has the ability to fold into the wall. So
Oh, love that.
yeah, so if we ever needed to park both, I don't know how we would do it, but if we ever needed to do it, make room, we have that capability, which I like. And then I mean, like you were saying, it's like we have a dip attachment. We have something else like it's got like the safety bar. So if you're benching by yourself, like you have that, or I mean, the same thing if you're squatting by yourself, like
Mhm.
it's just a little bit safer than the stand.
Yeah, 100%. So that's a really good one because I know that there's probably a pretty large price difference between the two of those. But I would say if you're gonna build it out, like if you're gonna go beyond just dumbbells and bench, I would say go all into getting the rack, a true barbell, and going that route versus like the like they look like when you go to body pump class and they give you the little like tiny dumbbell or tiny barbells that are like really thin. You put the like colored weights on. Um, I would go the real route rather than one of those because it's like you're gonna outgrow that faster than you outgrow the dumbbells. So like what are you really spending money on even though it's cheaper in the short term? Um, so I would say like beyond just the main dumbbells, like maybe a set of bands is a great step if like you're trying to just build out like a really cost effective one. You can attach bands to the door, you could do pull downs, you could do a lot with bands to make dumbbell exercises more difficult. But if you're going to go like build out, I would say like full rack, bench, barbell would be first step in my opinion.
Yeah. The other thing that one of the very, very first pieces of equipment that we ever had was a TRX. So that was just
Yeah.
something that we attached to the door. We had it in our apartment, and you can do a decent amount of stuff with that.
Oh yeah.
Um, and I mean, a lot of it's still resistance. So it's a great alternative if you don't have a lot of space. But yeah, if we are talking about building a home gym, I would say a squat rack. Well, first thing is the dumbbells, a bench, but then if you're really thinking about it, like a squat rack is going to be awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then plates wise, I mean, I don't know how much weight your husband uses, but mine doesn't do a lot of his heavy lifting in our home gym. So I would say if you have a partner who is excessively strong, you're going to need a lot of 45s and a lot of 25s. But we honestly, I think we have two sets of 45s and then two sets of 35s because the gym was trying to just get rid of them and no one wanted 35s. And then one set of 25s and then two sets of 10s and one set of fives, one set of 2.5s for the plates. And I don't think you really need much more than all that because technically if you're like let's say you have a barbell and you put two 25s on it, like you could also just do a 45 and a five. So like there's a certain like amount of diminished returns with like buying a lot of 25-pound plates versus 45 and having more than one set of like fives and 2.5s like doesn't really make sense usually. So those are ways that you can kind of just like get the minimal amount that you need in order to stack up the amount of weight that you want for barbell movements.
Yeah, I'm trying to envision what we have like in our gym on the floor. So I think we have 4 45s, 2 25s. We have one, two, 6 10s because we have some bumpers and then we have
Is that
some like
sets or
regular
total?
ones. Total. So not
Oh, okay.
sets. Total, and then 2 5s and then 2 2.5s.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like the similar situation. You just have more
Yeah.
45. Or wait, no, that's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and then the bar, but
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what else? So like from there you can kind of get fun with it. Like you can have a pull-up bar. If you don't have the rack, you can get one of the ones that just like sticks on the door. Because that's the one thing that like home gyms I think lack in terms of hitting different muscle groups is lat pull downs, pull ups, those sorts of things that you would typically pretty much only be able to do with cables. Because you can do a dumbbell pullover, but that's like it. Otherwise, you're hitting all like mid back movements. So, are you going to be this imbalanced person if you don't ever do that? No, but like it's just as a former bodybuilder, I feel like you got to hit your vertical pulls, you got to hit your horizontal pulls. Um, so that's the one thing where it's like if you can find a pull up bar or like a cable attachment to be able to do lat pull downs and pull ups and that sort of thing, I feel like that's where you get kind of that last missing piece when it comes to home gyms that you don't otherwise get.
yeah. And I mean, I'm thinking about 2020 programming, we did the blood flow restriction. So that's again a super cheap way that you can change up your programming, especially if you don't have a lot of equipment. It's like a different way of training. So that can be kind of fun to add some variety in. I'd say we already talked about this in the gifting episode, but having like a hip thrust pad, like that can be, I mean, that can really like make or break a training session, just wanting to be a little bit more
Mm,
comfortable. Brett Contreras has a lot of equipment that is kind of specialized, I guess you could say. So they have the hip thrust like platform, I guess, that makes it a little bit easier, but that is going to take up a lot more space than just having a bench that you can set up and put in your little cube. And then they have it's very popular on Instagram. It's like, I think it's called the booty sprout. Have you seen that?
what? No.
Okay, so let me look it up, but it's called the booty sprout and it's like a banded hip thrust. Like I don't know how to really describe it, but it's kind of like a platform, like a wooden platform. And let me see if I can find a image of it. Yeah, so it's like this, I don't know if you can see that. It's like a little
Oh
platform.
yeah.
It's got the bench, yeah, and so you just kind of have it's just bands. So I love that from the sense of not having to set up like multiple plates on every single side. I don't know what the resistance level would go up to with just bands, but
Yeah.
that's something nice. But yeah, Brett Contreras has a lot of equipment that he sells on his website. That would be a good one to look into. I know that I am for Black Friday.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have the stand, not stand, the platform for hip thrusts. I think we've talked about that on the last one, but I like it. It does take up space, but it's also nice that you can just sit on it whenever you're in between sets. So it can be multifunctional. Um, there also are I sent this to Aaron the other day. It's like a Nordic hamstring curl that
Mm,
turns into a decline bench, turns into a regular incline bench and flat bench, and like kind of does all these little conversions, and and turns into a GHD, turns into all these things. And I thought that was pretty cool because like anytime you can find like kind of a Transformers style piece of gym equipment, if it's good quality, like I think it's totally worth it because you can basically like make 8 different things very compact and be able to get a lot done. Rather than buying like traditional gym equipment for your garage. Like I actually know someone that does this, but like having a leg extension machine, having a Smith machine, having all these different things in your home gym, like if you have the space, awesome. Do it, go for it, load it up, just make a true gym out of your garage. But if you don't, you kind of have to get creative with selecting very selecting pieces very intentionally to be able to make the most of the space and also make the most of the options that you have. So a lot of times those like convertible style things can be really, really helpful in that way.
Yeah, I love I love having a home gym in your actual like house because you don't have to worry about it getting cold or too hot. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty temperature controlled, which I'm like so jealous of because our summers get so freaking hot and then in the winter it is cold. So that's also something to consider is like if you have some sort of AC or like a heating unit for if it is going to be in your garage. But the other
Oh,
thing
we
that I
just
was
got
just,
one.
oh, I'm so jealous.
Yeah, we just got a heating like fan thing from Costco. It's
Mm,
probably like 80 bucks. But and it seems to work pretty well so far. I don't know how it does like heating the whole room, but if it's like pointed at you, it feels great. So,
yeah.
um yeah, it's worth it. I just did cardio with it yesterday and I was like, wow, this is way better.
Yeah, my husband this morning was like, "Hey, I think it's time to break out the space heater. Where is it?" I was like, "It's in the
Mhm.
hallway closet." And he's like, "Cool." But it's such a dinky one because I originally got it, I think either for my counseling office or I got it for my home office, one or the other. So it's not necessarily really for a garage.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was just thinking of that we didn't talk about was again, if you have the resources and you have the space to get those equipment pieces for like a leg extension, a leg press, or, all those fun things, go for it. But if you're someone like me, you don't have a whole lot of space and you're trying to make the best of it. Bowflex, like they have the kind of like all-in-one systems. And then there's something that's really popular right now is called a tonal, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like a cable system. And it just pretty much just mounts to your wall. So it really doesn't take up any space at all. And what's really great, especially if you are kind of getting into your like I guess your fitness journey, it has programs that you can follow, like it has exercises so you can like basically watch what you're doing. Or what's really cool that our clients do is we will plug in their training program and they can put it into their tonal. So it'll run through what their workouts are, which is super cool. I don't know how much they cost, but I know that
I
that's
do.
really, really popular. Okay.
I think I do at least.
Oh, they
So the
look
thing
pretty
about
expensive.
tonal, the thing about tonal that I think is important to consider is if you get a tonal, I don't actually think you need much else of anything that we've mentioned. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe a bench, but like it should cover pretty much everything. And that's kind of the point. So I think it's like what, 3 grand roughly,
4 is what I'm
4 grand.
seeing. Hmm.
And then on top of that, when you get a tonal, I think you have to also have like their membership, which I
I'm
heard is like
sure. It's the same
30,
with
30 something
Peloton.
dollars a month. Yeah. So it's like you're basically signing up for like it's a gym membership plus it's equipment, but it is all in one and it saves you from basically having to have anything else is the purpose of it. So it works well in that way, but it's just I wouldn't I mean, unless you feel like it, like I wouldn't invest in like that as a part of a home gym that is larger because it's kind of redundant. But it has all those cool features. And if you're just like a tech person and you like love shit like that, I mean, cool. But I mean, that I would say it's like kind of an either or thing too.
Yeah, so that's not my jam, but I love the
That's
like it
really
just
cool.
built into the wall. Yeah, and it has like the pull down like equipment or the like capability. I just need a cable system. Like, I love my
Yeah,
cables.
you do.
Um, But yeah, so I think, oh, and then I guess the other thing that we should talk about is flooring, because I think that that's pretty important if you're like,
Yeah.
especially if you're like deadlifting. So you can go to places like Tractor Supply and they have those kind of big mats that are really cushiony. They do have the like interlocking, like puzzle mat kind of things.
Yeah.
I don't like those though, because I don't feel like they're very stable because they have so much
Mm-mm.
squish. So I actually don't like those at all. I like the big heavy duty mats, and I think they're also easier to clean too.
Yeah. I think what I've seen people do is they'll get the puzzle pieces and then they'll put the like thick ones over it so that like there's like kind of a
Mm,
little bit of a bounce and like cushion between like concrete that could crack and the
mhm.
top mat. The ones that from Tractor Supply and like the ones that they stock gyms with, like it should be enough to protect concrete, but like I don't know if you want to be extra careful, it's like, but I don't know, maybe it's like condoms, two is worse than one.
Yeah. Or, who knows if you're, deadlifting enough to be able to break your concrete garage floors.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm just okay. But flooring, we want to be extra safe, so double up.
Oh man. We should just end here.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Well, anyways, happy home gym building, guys. If you listen to this episode and you enjoy it, let us know. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to our podcast. You can find both of us on Instagram. You can find me at Christy Lynn Fit, and Marissa is at Marissa Roy Fitness. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to see you back next week.